Anything. You probably all know Andy and I at this point, but Andy, you want to give an intro for anybody who's new?
Hey everybody, I'm the partner development director here at Syncro. Really just here to help make y'all more money.
Good intro. I'm Ian Alexander, co-founder, channel chief, just here to hang out, answer questions. We got a couple agenda items to go over. They're all pretty quick, so we didn't bother making slides this time. But we'll do some agenda items and just cover some quick updates, and then we will get to Q&A. If you're joining from Zoom, feel free to use the Q&A box and just start populating all your questions. Right now, if you're joining on Facebook or on YouTube, we will also see your questions. Well, as comments there, they'll come into our system. So feel free to start asking questions now as we're getting started, and we'll get to them when we get to Q&A. Shout out to Marvin. Hey, Marvin. All right, so just getting started. Want to give just an update on scripts, scheduled scripts specifically. So as of the last Ask Us Anything, we told you we had deployed a new scripting system to some of the script schedules, and that additional the remaining script schedules we're gonna be transitioned over. All of that has been transitioned over since then. We've had a couple of weeks of monitoring. Things are working great. So you should be seeing scheduled scripts running the way they were designed to run. So that's a big win, and hope that's making a big difference for you guys. So scripts are working. Maybe at some point I'll pull up a chart. There's a fun chart that I got that basically just shows it. 0% error rate. Anyway, so that's the first thing. Second thing is we did launch the VAT improvements for all the taxes in Australia and New Zealand. So we said we were going to launch that. That has been launched. I will post in the chat right now a link to the knowledge base article that details how to migrate your invoicing system over to the new VAT tool. So if you are in Australia or New Zealand, that is now available to you. Hopefully that helps. We had previously launched that in the UK. Okay, next thing. We had rolled rich text in tickets out. And there are still some improvements that we're making. I just want everybody to know that we've heard your feedback. We know there are some things that we need to work on, and we are working on those things. So nothing in particular there, just want to acknowledge that it's not perfect, and we are working to resolve all of those issues and add some improvements folks have asked for. Next thing, additionally, we recently launched a brand new top navigation in the app, and yeah, I think it is considerably better. However, there were some additional improvements requested. We have heard that feedback, and we are working on some improvements there. So again, just want to share in general, we know there are some things to do there, and we're working on it. Okay, that's some of my updates. Andy, your turn.
All right, got some cool things to talk about here. Let me get my stuff sorted. Can you all see my Proofpoint screen here?
Yep.
Cool. So for those of you that aren't aware, we launched a new partnership with Proofpoint yesterday. Proofpoint is an email security product designed to protect your customer email accounts from common things like malicious emails, malicious URLs, along with some not so uncommon things like behavior changes. So one of the really cool things that they were showing me just the other day is, let's say, for example, Ian and I, we talk all the time, but we rarely will talk via email. So even though I know Ian, I trust Ian, I've gone as far as telling my email tenant that I trust what Ian is sending me. If he sent me, say, 3 requests in a given week asking me for sensitive information, that's a behavior change, and Proofpoint will pick up on that, and it will notify me that something might be amiss, so to speak. Then, of course, it does things like, preventing outbound data exfiltration. You can also have it append disclaimers to the bottom of emails and things like that. That's effectively Proofpoint Essentials, which is what you're seeing there on the left. There's 6 SKUs that have differing protection levels, differing features to them. And then we also have their security awareness training product, which is effectively a way to send a customer a safe phishing email campaign that you can report back on who specifically fell for it, how often, to what degree. And it's a great tool to convince your customers that email security isn't just a large attack vector, it is the largest attack vector there is, period. Much like Acronis, we have extremely aggressive pricing here. Anyone is free to check their PAX 8 bills, for example, to confirm just how aggressive we are. We also have promotional pricing available to anybody that deploys 10 or more licenses by May 15th, and that pricing will stick with you so long as your Syncro account remains active. And for anyone who's going to ask, that also does count for anything you add after May 15th and beyond as well. For folks that want to look at the pricing, it's in our app card, which is in the App Center in your Syncro instance. And just like with Acronis, we are also allowing folks to migrate their existing Proofpoint billing over to Syncro to begin saving your money, regardless of the distributor that you're on today. That process, again, is relatively simple, just like it is with Acronis. It's a back-end billing switch. Usually takes a couple days to complete, and then you just start saving money from there. So if anybody's interested in either learning more about Proofpoint, migrating your account over to Syncro to save some money, getting a newly provisioned account set up, or just wanting to learn more, you can email us at proofpoint@syncromsp.com and we'll take care of you. So next, I want to talk about a new report that we launched. We have a report called Ticket Time by Technician, and we had a lot of billing admins start saying, hey, that report is great, but we really want to look at ticket time by customer. So we basically duplicated the report and changed it so it's now focused on doing exactly the same thing on a per customer basis. So again, I don't have too much data in this specific instance, but you can see what it'll do. It'll break down the technician name, their labor rate, how many hours were worked on any given ticket, links back to the ticket, and then it'll total it as well. So this is really for a billing admin to be able to come in and say, okay, this is good, almost like an approved post mechanic, and then charge time or take the time back if it's not something that they feel is correctly going to be charged or needs to be charged. And again, this is just a different way to view the same data, but again, specifically designed for billing admins versus the other one, which was more designed for oversight of your technician's time from an operational standpoint. So this is live now. This is available in everyone's accounts. And then there's a few smaller quality of life features that we're also releasing. These will be available later today. Don't have an exact ETA, but it should be not too soon after we conclude here today. So the first is one I showed off at the last AUA. It ran into some problems. It's now going out today. And this is basically where you can add the customer as a condition to ticket automation. So in essence, you can now make customer specific ticket automations, which is very cool. We had a lot of people saying, hey, I need to do something very specific on one customer. I don't want to have 4 million automations to try and handle that. So here's a way that you can segment that really easily with just one new customer condition. Second thing that we're doing is we took an assets pending reboot state and we added it as a platform variable in scripting. So for those of you that don't know, platform variables are very cool. This is one of the things that's relatively unique to Syncro. You can go into an asset record, the customer that the asset's associated to, the contact information, custom fields, whatever, and you can pull it in as fields that can be used as variables in your scripts. So you can do custom specific stuff depending on what you're dealing with in the specific situation. So now you can find out if this asset is pending a reboot. So if you go ahead and you do XYZ in your script, you can just add another line that's like, hey, if it's pending reboot, let's go ahead and take care of that too, and just trigger your reboot. So again, this will be live later today. And then I apologize, the last one is something that we've been wanting to deliver, especially if Jimmy's on this call. This is his request from like 18 months ago. I fouled up my Splashtop business instance, so I can't show it right now. But effectively what it's going to do is on ticket records, when you attach an asset, you're able to remotely access that asset right from the ticket record. That works perfectly fine with our Splashtop RMM variant. It didn't work with third-party like BYO remote access, like TeamViewer, Screen Connect, Splashtop. So now there's going to be a drop down and you'll be able to run those directly from the ticket as well without having to go into the asset record. So small thing, I know it's a big thing for Jimmy and other folks that were asking, so we're finally finally getting that one out. Happy to have that out the door finally too. So again, later today, you should see the rest of those, but the ticket time by customer report, you all should have that in your instances now.
Okay, back to me. So next thing I want to just public service announcement. There's some scheduled maintenance happening on April 1st. That's a Saturday. Just some basic maintenance that we're doing. So it's from 9 a.m. to noon Pacific on Saturday. So we'll send out a notification about it, but just wanted to note it here. Nothing major, just doing some maintenance. Okay, next thing here, want to talk about release notes and just go over some of what's happened that we might not have covered. So we went over some of the new stuff that's been released. We went over the set SLA thing in the last Ask Us Anything in the run once. We went over that in the last one. We also resolved a bunch of, bugs. So we don't need to spend a bunch of time going through each one, but some of the big ones were QuickBooks and Xero issues. Folks have known about that for a while. So some of those have been resolved. Some UI UX improvements. The reason we usually like to show this is because I think not everybody knows that there are release notes. So just showing you that they exist so you can go take a look. They're in the release notes section of the community forums. So if you go here and you go to release notes, you will find that. Okay, moving on. Want to highlight that we have a Proofpoint webinar coming up on March 30th at 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to post a link right now to that webinar if you want to register. I know there's already some Proofpoint questions in the Q&A, which we will answer, but you'll have an even more in-depth look and the ability to ask some pretty deep questions if you sign up for that webinar. Let me post that also on YouTube, etc. Okay, there you go. So that's a resource if you want to dive in, and we can answer any questions there. Okay, I believe, let me also post a link to the release notes. Put that in the chat. And over here. Okay. All right. So that's all the scheduled kind of agenda items we had. Happy to jump into questions.
So we've got a couple about Proofpoint. And I apologize, I should have said this and I didn't. So a lot of people are asking who's providing Proofpoint support. 100% Proofpoint, tier 1, tier whatever, they handle support end to end. So everything will go directly to them.
And let me elaborate on that a little bit, because this is always a discussion point when we're talking about these partnerships in terms of who's going to do support. What we found in the past is that obviously if we're billing for the thing, right? If you have a billing question, you can submit a ticket with us because that's our issue. So we'll help you with any questions related to billing, or like just getting started in general, right? However, it's often not helpful for us to provide support when it's a bug or a feature request for that product, because what ends up happening is we would then send that feature request to, in this case, Proofpoint, and then Proofpoint would respond, and then we would respond on behalf of Proofpoint to you. So really all it does is create a lag time, which is a worse experience for the MSP. So what we like to do when people are open to it is have MSPs go directly to the vendor so they can, because they're the experts in their product, right? So in this case, we can help with things like provisioning and with billing. But if you have technical questions, you're welcome to go to Proofpoint and they can provide support. So.
Yeah, and to add to that, somebody's asking generally, how big is Proofpoint? If anybody attends the webinar, they have some massively crazy statistics. Something like 25% of all email is actually routed through Proofpoint. 87% of all Fortune 100s are relying on Proofpoint. So they're a big company. I think they were bought for like $12 billion a year or two ago. They're a massive company. Yeah. So we're really
just to
excited.
Put it into perspective, their revenue in 2021 was over $1 billion. So they're larger than pretty much anyone in the MSP space.
Yeah, they're big players. Oh, I saw the shout out from Marvin. Hey, Marvin, I met him last year at TechCon. Good to see you here, bud. Andrew's saying, okay, so one of his biggest requests is being able to search ticket contents. I assume you mean ticket comments. Yeah, and I think that's something that we're looking at. I will say that I don't know if that would come in the form of like the search box and the header. I think it's probably going to come in the form of a search box on the ticket index page, which I don't think would bug anybody specifically, just to keep that search box performant. But yeah, that's definitely something we hear a lot. So it's definitely something we're looking to add at some point here down the road.
Got a question here from Jason about the mobile app. I think in general on mobile app things, if you could shoot me an email with every single thing you'd like to see added or changed in the mobile app, that would actually be really helpful.
Okay, so anonymous person saying, hey, we're looking for a solution for asset management that both ourselves and the customer can see details. And the customer portal, they're basically saying it's limited in terms of the fields that you can see. If it's not working in the customer portal, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we do actually support full co-managed IT scenarios. So what this means is you can actually give your customer a login to Syncro, and it would be scoped to their specific customer. So, and then you can give them rights to do whatever you want. You don't want them to run scripts, that's fine. You want them to see all of the asset data, they can do that. And again, it would just be scoped to that customer. So it's for co-managed scenarios where you really need to manage it, but they might be doing like tier 1 support themselves, or you might just have an ownership role that needs to get in and manage something or see the record. So that is available today. If you go in the security permissions in the admin settings, when you go to create that permission, you'll see it's like full permissions or it's single user permissions. And the single user permissions is how you would assign an account to a specific customer. A lot of folks
I just put the knowledge base article in the chat.
Oh, perfect.
So folks can check that out. Jason, my email is ian@syncromsp.com.
Okay, Gord is asking, does PowerPoint, excuse me, I see PP and I think PowerPoint, don't ask me why. Is the Proofpoint offer using MX redirection? That is how it works. So basically it will take all the mail from your tenant, circumvent it, put it into Proofpoint, Proofpoint does its thing, and then it redirects it back. That's the highest level of protection you can really get. You can do things via the API also, but that's always kind of secondary protection. You'll never get full protection without routing email out and back in again. So yeah, that's a good question. We got several folks chiming in about how well scheduled scripts have been working for them. So that's great to see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Ben is asking, is there going to be a platform variable for antivirus anytime soon? Same thing for searching assets based on that variable. Ben, I don't know if you mean like an installed antivirus that you're not deploying through Syncro. In the saved asset searches, there is ways to filter for machines that do have or don't have antivirus, like ones that are through us, Weber, Bitdefender, MCSoft. And then if you want to let me know, I don't know what the use case would be for knowing that from a script, but let me know on that. And I'm kind of curious what you're thinking there. Somebody's saying they're discouraged about Proofpoint when it has 6 SKUs for one piece of software. Well, I don't think I'd let that discourage you. It's really designed to allow you to service a bunch of different customers, and I'll explain what I mean by that. When you deploy Proofpoint, you're deploying on a per customer basis, meaning you can take any one of those 6 SKUs and form fit it to that specific customer, and then any of your other customers can be any other SKU that you want. So there's plenty of things that you probably won't need for the bulk of your customers, but you may have a high value, high liability client that you do. And one example is like legal holds. Like you may have some kind of litigation consistently ongoing, or someone gets terminated and you need to hold their data for X amount of time before you can release it. Those are the types of things that you could add at certain levels. Do you need email archival? Do you need email encryption? These are all things that you can offer, but the base SKU is always designed to give you that base level protection, and then you can add in what you need from there. So again, everybody might think differently, but I always like to have options in terms of what I give my customer, especially if you have a very diverse customer base. If they only sold the top end line, for example, you'd have a real hard time pushing that into the smaller portion of your customer base.
Got a question here from William. I opened a feature request and have heard nothing back, yet I see people tagging you to on Facebook and it gets traction? Is this the desired process? No, that is not the desired process. Let me back up for a second. In the community forums, there is a feature request section. Our product team, whether they respond or not, they read every single post. Not only that, those automatically flow into our Slack. So we like the whole team sees feature requests. We might not respond to everyone, but we see everyone. And that then when we go and triage all the different feature requests and decide what to build on the roadmap, etc., all that stuff is taken into account. So we probably should find a way to respond to more things, but we do read everything. In terms of tagging me and Andy, that can help and hurt you. So I don't no, that is not really the desired outcome. I will say we also read everything that is posted on the Facebook group, whether you tag us or not. So it doesn't really do anything to tag us, if I'm being honest. So.
But if it makes you feel better, William,
you can
go on the community forum and ping us there too. It's fine. It's fine. No problem at all. Anders, I think he's talking about the co-managed IT scenario I was talking about before, asking if you need a license for that. You do. So you would pay a license for them basically. And again, it's not for your smaller clients. It's for your larger ones. The smaller ones you can likely funnel into the customer portal as like a free option. And then I don't know if folks know also, but we obviously have that Splashtop native integration that we allow you for free for all your tax. You can actually give that to your clients. It's $5 a contact, and you can give the contact rights to see all the assets that are assigned to them, or you can give them rights to see all of their assets if it's like an oversight role. Same $5, it's not per asset, it's per contact. So if they go in the customer portal, they can actually launch like Splashtop sessions from there if you want them to. So it is a license if you want the co-managed scenario. If you just want to have people flowing into the customer portal and using the basically like the work from home type scenario, the portal itself is free. The license to do that remotely is $5 per contact. Let's see, what else do we have here? Adam's asking, how is the build out of the support division coming along? I'm still waiting multiple days anytime I submit a support request via email. Adam, I'm going to be probably more honest than I should be here, and I'll say that it's actually going very well. First of all, the amount of changes that we've seen coming out of that department, and McCall, specifically the new director of support over there, has been astounding. I will say that due to some issues with rich text specifically, obviously the support intake has been a little bit higher than we would like to see it. It's also because we were allowing people to opt in and opt out of it, so that is running through support as well. So I would expect to see that die down again soon. That's not obviously normal, but I'm not going to lie and say it's not normal. Currently, it is. But yeah, I wouldn't expect that to last too long. They're blowing through those queues pretty fast right now.
I'm really curious what this user wants to do who wants the AV in scripts. We have it in saved searches, so you can technically run scripts against a save search. So anyway, I'm just curious what the use case is.
Yeah, I think he put it in there. He's saying, so the agent pulls whatever is the current AV and stores it in a variable in the asset itself, but I can't search based on it. Oh, if it's in, have you checked the down below? I think there's something called property conditions. I don't have it in front of me, but if you check in there, it might be in there. If not, put that, if you can kind of redelineate what you're saying now, put it in a feature request in the community forum and tag me on it so I know. But yeah, let me know, because I'll discuss that with you further, because I'm mostly understanding what you're saying, but I want to make sure I fully understand it. Okay, so someone's saying, I have clients set up to access endpoints. However, the Syncro version is limited and cannot view 2 screens at once. You can't view 2 screens at once, but you can switch between 2 different screens. And then without giving away more than I should, I know Ian is working on a potential solution to get around that. I don't have any additional details yet, but hopefully that's not super far away.
Yeah, working on that just to be slightly more detailed. I'm talking to Splash Top about it.
Yeah, if Ian says it, then great. That's all on Ian.
It's a little early to promise anything, but we're talking to Splash Top.
Yeah, we hear folks loud and clear. We get the value. And the other thing, by the way, if we were able to do that, it would add is the ability for more than one technician to log into the same machine at the same time. Those are the two things that we hear quite frequently.
Yep.
Okay, so Adam asked a great question. Any chance we could get a filter added for asset searches that hides offline assets? I tried using the last check-in time, but that's not ideal for this need. Yeah, so yes, that is something we're looking at. And then to build on that, I don't remember who it was, but somebody on the feature request form came up with this great idea that was like, hey, can we also use the last check-in time to filter by active and inactive assets, saying like anything that's checked in with Syncro in the past 30 days, let's call that active, and anything older than that, let's call it inactive. And then we're going to take that a step further because we love that idea, and we're going to allow you to make a saved asset search from that and then bring it into recurring invoices, which you can do today. So you can effectively have assets coming quote unquote online or offline within any given period, and then only bill dynamically off account of active assets. So that's a great idea. And I love that. And yes, I think we can do all of that stuff at the same time. That's a great idea.
Can I also, just on the support thing, I want to go back to that for a second. I want to make sure folks know we have live chat and a phone number. So you can use those and get pretty quick support. I think just a lot of people don't know that.
Oh, let's see. And Des is asking, there's clearly been a lot of changes in personnel over the last year or so. Can you give us an indication of how much staff growth or change you've had in the past year or two? Might help us grasp the level of changes that's been going on.
Trying to think like the best way to answer this question. I think probably the best way to answer it is to say we have a new director of support as of not too long ago, which you guys who you met, McCall. We have a new CTO in Kristen, who you met the time before that. Just though, so she's involved in charge of like product and engineering, and then Kristen's involved and in charge of support. So if you just imagine new leaders in both of those places, how many changes would happen because of that? That's a lot of change, and those are both pretty recent, end of 2022. So a lot of really positive changes there. They brought a lot of really great experience from Datto and other places. So lots of good stuff and some new folks on staff that are also bringing awesome experience. So I don't want to get into like head count and things like that, but I will say lots and lots of change when you consider that plus massive architecture changes, right? Moving from Heroku to AWS, giving us whole new tool sets, etc. So when you combine new personnel, new tool sets, new ways of thinking, I think lots and lots of positive changes are happening, and they're happening relatively quickly. So I don't know if that answers your question, but if you have more specific questions, I might answer that. I don't want to go too much into detail about internal stuff.
Ryan's asking a good question. This comes up quite a bit. What's the priority of implementing multiple email addresses for Syncro to use? I don't want to send invoices from our support at email address. Ryan, I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. I'm going to be honest, and here's how I'm going to answer that. Here's how I view the different aspects of Syncro today. I think for the most part, the RMM is very sound. There's always things we can improve, but I think that is much further along than the PSA for growing MSPs. On the PSA side of things, I know we're looking at major ticketing improvements. We're looking at major invoicing improvements. Those are the core focuses today. This would probably fall in that. We're talking about things like ticket boards, approved posts, the notion of technician utilization reports, profitability reports, both by customer, by contract. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking at. So this would probably fall into that. So if you want me to say like, hey, is this going to be out next month? It's not. Is this something we would be potentially looking at toward the end of the year when we're rolling out all these other significant PSA improvements and changes? It would be. Don't have an exact time for you, but I know exactly what you want. I know exactly what you need. So that is something that's relatively high on the list of things that we want to deliver for folks.
Got a question here from anonymous attendee. Are new online backup integrations coming soon? Acronis is fine, but would be nice to have more options. We're open to it. We do hear a lot of requests for other integrations. There are trade-offs, of course, but we can do like business relationships like this Proofpoint one where we aren't investing much engineering resources, or actually in Proofpoint's case, they're going to build an integration, which is great. So there are things we can work out there. I guess my question would be, who would you want us to integrate with, and why would that be better than Acronis? That would be I just out of curiosity, I can probably guess, but helpful.
William's asking, William, I might not be understanding your question correctly, but you say, can we create an asset and assign it to the client, for example, a printer? As it is now, we have to do double data entry, use case SNMP monitoring. And you're talking about the inventory module. I'm not following the correlation. Yes, you can assign custom assets to a client if you have a Syncro agent deployed on a network device on that, or I should say a Windows machine on that network. You can monitor it via SNMP. If you want to ask another question, I'm not totally following on the double data entry piece.
I think he might be saying that you have to go manually create a custom asset in Syncro.
Oh, William, let me know if you're talking about like a network discovery thing where like it picks it up and adds it to Syncro. When you mentioned the inventory module, it threw me. I don't know how that related, so just let me know.
There are some pretty cool integrations with some other tools actually that can go and like automatically add your assets as custom assets, so you don't have to do it. I know like Hoodoo and some of the other like documentation platforms, like they'll sync over the custom assets into Syncro, which is pretty cool. Actually, saves you a lot of time.
I like Vaughn. He's always asking good questions. He says, now that the ticket automations can be set to run once, which is a toggle we added like 2 AUAs ago, is there any chance of getting ticket automations to run on tickets in some sort of resolve status? I think that's a good question. The problem is that you have to find a clever way to stop running audit. Well, okay, that's actually, now I see what you're saying. If you can run it once, can I do it against a resolve status? Do this, Vaughn. Can you put some specific use cases for me in the community forum? Now I feel like it's a running joke, but ping me on it. And then let me know specifically what you're thinking there, because that's a good point. We could open it up to resolve ticket statuses and force you to only run it once. And then you can never get into that weird loop of where things won't work. I think that's a great suggestion. So yeah, let's talk about that more. I like that a lot. Stephen is asking, can SNMP assets turn on or off the green light? Stephen, I don't know what you mean. If you're talking about like the online indicator for Windows devices, or are you just trying to say, is there a way to show you that it's online or offline for the actual SNMP asset? Do me a favor, just ask a follow-up there so I know what you're asking specifically. Jason's saying, in the PSA, I created custom fields, but I wonder if you mean you can't, but I can report on them. If I export, all custom fields are combined into one field, not separate fields. Is this something you guys are going to fix? That's not currently on the radar, Jason, but if you let me know specifically what you're doing, I'd like to talk to you about that further. I just assume you need to export it and extract it for some specific purpose, but I'd be curious what you're doing there.
I just want to answer this, like elaborate a little bit on this question from Des. So just to give you an idea, engineering and support and customer success, like if you combine those departments, it's like, I think it's like over 80% of our headcount. So like the majority of what we're doing is like product engineering and support. There's very few people not doing those things comparatively. I don't know if that helps elaborate.
Des is asking an interesting question. He says, it's a feature request. I'd like to see maintenance status for an asset that only changes when the asset comes back online. I need to think about that, but actually you could theoretically do that now, Des. One of the cool things about Syncro is that all of the pieces interact with all of the other pieces. So I've seen crazy MSPs do crazy clever stuff. And here's an example of what you can do. So if an asset goes offline, as an example, you could run a script against it. And when it comes back online, it can run an automated remediation. It can fire an RMM alert. And then you can have that run a script that turns on and off maintenance status. But normally, if you're doing maintenance, we did add that to our scripts also. I don't know if you know that. So most of the time during maintenance mode, you're doing it in automated fashion. So the script can put the machine in maintenance mode, do whatever it needs to do, and then trigger it to come back. The other thing you can do is if it has to go through several cycles of reboots, instead of just scoping it to the length of how long it takes to run the script, you can say do it for 15 minutes or for 30 minutes. And even if the machine is offline, as soon as that time expires, then it'll just go ahead and trip maintenance mode again. So I'm pretty sure you'd be able to get to what you wanted from existing functionality.
Our product team would like me to mention that we fixed the news feed icon in the product. Let me just like share my screen really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. This little icon here shows all the recent updates to the product. It was kind of broken. Now it is fixed.
Yeah, we're getting a couple pings about that. Garrett's asking a question. I think it's probably time we just answered this one. They're asking if Watchman will ever be directly integrated into Syncro. Ian, if you want to add anything to what I'm about to say, but I think what I would say is that was initially the intention. For now, it's a standalone product. For the foreseeable future, it'll remain a standalone product. At some point in the future, we may integrate it, but we've basically put other priorities in front of that at this time. You want to add anything to that, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were working on that with Watchmen, we thought it would be a lot easier to like add the functionality into Syncro. Turned out to not just be so simple. But that doesn't mean it won't happen. It's just not the highest priority right now compared to some of the other things that we could work on, right? Like we were gonna work on scripts, scheduled scripts, like fixing that before we do something like that. So just as an example.
Okay, William's asking a follow-up to what he was saying about the SNMP devices double entry. So basically when he sells an item to the customer, he wants an asset to be created for that. Like if he sells a printer, he wants an asset to be created as an SNMP device. I think that's okay, William, but I think the problem still remains. Even if we added it, you're likely going to have required fields and things that you need to fill out for the printer. So if you just want like a printer name and that's it and not have the other fields, that would work. But if you have to fill out anything, I assume you still have to go to the asset record and then add that stuff in there. So if you haven't already, add that as a feature request. Let's see if other folks chime in, because I think that's an interesting idea. And I don't think I've heard that before. So I'm curious what other folks think on that one.
I mean, I think the standard way of doing that is with network discovery, right? Like you selling them the hardware doesn't really matter. It's when the hardware is actually set up that because otherwise it's just sitting in a box somewhere, right? Like that doesn't even really matter. But once it's set up and it's actually connected to the network discovery should pick that up, which, we don't have at the moment. But that's kind of the standard way of doing it, which is why you might want to integrate something like an Alvic or like a, Lion Guard, like that kind of thing. But we actually have a great Domots integration, which, you could do that with.
Yeah, that's one of our better ones too. That's a great integration. One saying, is ticket automations to add a worksheet on a ticket issue type going to happen? We need a way outside of ticket custom fields to automatically attach worksheets to tickets. Yep, that's been asked multiple times. I will say it's on the radar, not in the immediate future, but it's something that will get added at some point. Yep. Okay, Des is expanding on the offline question. He says, my use cases where laptops or little used desktops are not online, and I get alerts regularly reminding me of that. I'd like to suppress it, but not totally forget. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, Des. I mean, honestly, if you're getting offline alerts for things like laptops, I would say you might want to try segregating stuff in policy inheritance and removing the offline alert for stuff that's not like immediate or extremely important. Normally you only want those alerts for for high uptime, high reliability, servers and things like that. Yeah, let me think about that one some more, but I don't know if that's how I would do it, but yeah, I do understand what you're saying.
We got a question from Elias. In the last Ask Us Anything, there were no plans to expand on hosting the EU due to compliance. Any changes on that? I think what I may have said was that we couldn't even consider that until we completed our Heroku to AWS migration. Now that we have completed the Heroku to AWS migration, I think that is on the table. I will say there are no immediate plans to do it. That doesn't mean that it's not an option. But I will say it is not like one of the top things that we're working on right
now. Adam is saying, I saw a discussion on Reddit asking if any RMM vendors had on-staff security resources to help respond to things that pop up like Outlook, CVE. Yeah, I will say, I'm not going to say a lot about this because we're never going to really reveal publicly ever like security practices behind the scenes. But the short answer is yes, we do.
Yeah, we have dedicated security folks on the team. They're not necessarily working on, I will say they're very concerned with the security of the product. They're not necessarily like writing scripts for users to use to secure, like end clients, but they're, it happens every once in a while. We'll release a script because somebody internally wrote something to help folks. But for the most part, our internal security folks are very focused on the security of the product.
Ben's asking, do you guys have plans for a warranty management module? So for example, when selling a new monitor or computer to a client, being able to add in the warranty start, end date, receipt, etc., then get alerts if and when the warranty is coming up for expiration. Yeah, so fun fact, this is another like really cool thing Syncro does that pretty much nobody knows it does, which is unfortunate. We don't have like a full-blown warranty module, but we do actually have custom fields that you can put a date into, and you can actually get notified on those dates. So as an example, in your scenario, let's say you put a monitor up that's got a 12-month warranty, you could create a custom asset from your monitor. You can attach your receipt directly to that record as a asset attachment. And then in the date field, you can put up when it expires. If you go in the notification center, you're going to see two that I guarantee almost nobody is using. One is like, notify me on 7 days of a date field or something like that. And the other one's like, notify me at 30 days. So it'll give you a lead time and say, hey, this is going to expire in 30 days, link you back to the record. And you can go and be like, oh, let me go talk to the customer, see what they want to do, extend their warranty or whatever. So if you are looking for like a full-blown warranty module, we do integrate with ScalePad, formerly Warranty Master, but I'm almost positive that you can get what you want out of existing functionality.
Yeah, I don't know if you've looked at the like warranty object, but a lot of people don't know that exists. If you go into go in here to admin, and then you go down here to warranty templates, there are like warranty templates where you can specify certain things, and I just posted the docs for that. So there are some things like that. We also have reminders, so there's certain things you could do to pull that together. But yeah, ScalePad is another way you can accomplish that.
Oh, what else? Let's see. Martin's asking, this gets asked a lot, Martin, is there a way to add the customer name to the subject line of a report I email every month? I send some reports every month to a mailbox, and I have to open all the attachments to find specific report I'm looking for. Yeah, I would say that, again, not on the immediate radar, but two things: more customization in anything, any communication that's going out is something we definitely want to look at. So it wouldn't even just be limited to report emails. It would also be like notifications coming out of the notification center and what you want certain notifications saying in the subject line or potentially even the body. It's definitely something that's on the radar. We do get asked that quite frequently.
I just want to answer Adam's question about CVEs in a slightly different way. I subscribe to CISA's alerts. You can get like text message alerts for all the CISA CVE notifications and stuff. So I get those on a regular basis on my phone. It's like quite annoying how often they come through, but it does, put vulnerabilities on my brain constantly, for better or worse. So you could have your staff subscribe to CISA's alerts, and that might be a good way to do that. There's also they put out a podcast on a daily basis that just has all the new CISA notifications in it with a short description. They're like 5 minutes, so you could listen to those in the morning or whatever. Have your staff subscribe to them. So just heads up on that.
Andrew's got, it sounds like a support issue, Andrew, but you're not able to mass deploy a KB via missing patches by KB report. Is that a problem you've heard from others? And he references a specific KB doesn't appear to be deploying by the checkbox. Andrew, it sounds like you have a support ticket open already and they're actively researching it. I don't have any additional information. I would say that that's not something that I'm hearing frequently. I mean, after we did the complete Windows patching overhaul about a year ago, it's been pretty stable since. We've had very few, if any, issues with it. So yeah, I'd say let's hold out and see what support finds on your behalf there. But sorry you're having that problem.
I had a question here from anonymous attendee about the ability to sell extended warranties through something like Asurion, Park Place, etc. I was talking to somebody recently that does this, and I'm trying to remember who it was. I will try to remember who it was. They were working with repair shops and MSPs similar to Asurion, but they were like specific to the space. So let me try to remember who that is, and I might be able to send them your way. They were going to work on an integration with Syncro.
We have a question about Proofpoint pricing, specifically asking basically the variance between what you'd likely pay with Syncro versus likely paying with somebody like Pax8. So retail pricing, you're going to save yourself around 5% off of what you would pay at Pax8. And on top of that, and somebody will have to correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Pax8 is providing tier 1 support, where in our situation, Proofpoint's providing all the support. If you, again, if you take care of that promo before May 15th, you will save approximately 10 to 12% on your Proofpoint spend versus somebody like somebody like Pax8. So basically, you're spending $1,000 a month. You switch your billing to Syncro, you'll be taking $120 off the top of that. And then for folks wanting to know what is really involved in a migration process, it is really just a simple back-end billing switch. So nothing changes to your instance, nothing, there's no disruption of service or anything like that. We simply put the request in with Proofpoint. It takes them a few days to process it, and you won't see anything in your instance at all. You'll just be getting your next Proofpoint bill from us, albeit at a much cheaper price. Scott's asking, any roadmap on more/better granular permissions? I want my administrative assistant to work on email templates, and she has to have global admin to do that. So Scott, that's a really good question. In terms of adding more stuff, I would probably say, I would love to know what it is, because there's already I think there's like 200 something, I don't know, there's so many permissions, it's crazy. But that's a really good point. I've heard time to time, there's like weird things that shouldn't really be at admin level, or not everybody wants them at the admin level. So do me a favor, if you can go on our community forums and list that out specifically for me, ping me. And then if you have any other ones that you're like, hey, I don't think this should be an admin permission either, let me know and we'll discuss those internally. Because yeah, I've been hearing a couple random ones like that, and I agree. It does make it harder for folks to get into just what they need if we lock it under an admin permission. All right, we're running low on questions. We're still here about 10 more minutes. So if anybody's got anything left, fire them off.
For Vaughn, it wasn't Warranty Master. That's ScalePad. It was a newer player that was doing a combination of insurance and warranties. Forgetting. I will figure out who it was.
All right, gonna leave it open about another minute. If we don't have any more questions, I think we'll call it until the next one.
Got a question here from Jason. How is our relationship with ThreatLocker? We don't really have a relationship with ThreatLocker. So if they built something, it's because they built it. I don't remember even talking to them. But I'm open to it.
Juan's asking if there's any good examples of practical ways to use ticket workflows feature. For people that don't know, ticket workflows, the way that you see a ticket and the information that's required there, aside from being able to inject your ticket type, which will give you custom fields on top of that, we have something called workflows. This is another thing a lot of folks don't use. That's different than worksheets, and it basically adjusts what you would see. So you have one, like, depending on the customer type, like let's say that you're a hybrid MSP and you do a lot of break fix work and you do a lot of managed services work, there might be a lot of stuff that you're going to record as an incoming ticket for managed services work that just doesn't apply. If it was like a residential customer, somebody you only need to go do work one-off for. So you could have a flow for like break fix work and a flow for managed services work, but you could even break up like existing managed services work depending on the type of ticket it is. So if it needs like your networking guy I shouldn't say networking guy, networking person, and you've got all that like specific networking detail that they need to triage, that's how you would organize that. So you're not just typing in a bunch of information because it happens to be an empty field there. It's specifically catered to whatever the job at hand is.
Yeah, another example might be you might make a ticket for internal work, improving something internally, or project work or something like that. And you don't even care anything about the customer, right? Because it's internal. So I think that, yeah, there's a lot of use cases there.
Ben's saying he's got an issue with scheduled runs. The counter in scripts doesn't seem to work. It'll list 0, but when you go into that script, it'll show assets that have it scheduled to run, or shows 1 or 2, but there's dozens of computers set to run it. Is that a bug? Well, I don't know, Ben. I don't think so, just because I haven't heard this before, but I would say that it's not. I don't believe that count is how many machines it's scheduled to run on. I believe the count is how many times that scheduled script has run. So if you deploy it to like 50 machines and it hasn't run yet, I believe it would say 0. You can confirm that. I mean, if you're saying that they've already run it, it's at 0. Obviously, no matter how you cut it, that sounds like a bug. But no, I believe it's the actual count of run scripts that happen to be scheduled from that specific script type. Yeah, okay, I think that's it then. We don't have anything else coming in. Well, like I said, we'll leave it open for another minute, but if that's it, I think we'll call it to the next one.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining. These are always fun for Andy and I. Thanks for all your questions. We're always happy to do them.
Yeah, we'll be looking
See you
for
at
your
the next
pings and in Facebook in the community forum. See you, everybody.
See you later.